أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. We live years of our life and we still don't know what death really is. As a Muslim, to have any kind of doubts in resurrection. I remember one day I shared with mu'mineen and mu'minat, somebody came up to me and was discussing resurrection and how do I gain reassurance that resurrection is going to occur. I said, read Surah Yasin, but not in Arabic when you don't understand Arabic. If you don't understand Arabic, read the English, because the answer is there. And that's what brings certainty. وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. He forgot about his initial creation and he said, who is going to bring the dead bones back to life after it decayed and it's dust? That is what Quran responds to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. The one who gave it life in the first place. Insha is when you bring something that is new. When He brought it into existence, when it did not exist, it's possible and easier for Him to bring it back into existence after it existed once. It is a shame that we don't have certainty about resurrection. It would be a shame that we don't have understanding of the journey after death. And it would be the biggest shame and the biggest regret if we have not prepared for that journey. Last week some of you were with us and I shared or reflected briefly on the verse in Surah Al-Fajr, which was also recited tonight, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the language or in the terms and the statement of people in the hereafter who focused on dunya and preferred dunya. تُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَ, Quran says, you love this world, you're focused on this world, materialistic life, this world of matter, to the point that all their focus is here. When they depart, he says, يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي قَدَّمْتُ لِحَيَاتِي. He says, I wish I had prepared and paid forward for my life. Meaning life is after death. النَّاسُ نِيَامٌ, people are asleep, Imam Ali alayhi salam says. They wake up when they die. فَإِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا. It is when they die that they wake up to the reality of life and what life really is. And if we understand that the real life is after death and that it's a journey that is inevitable and nobody can avoid it, then it would be mandatory on every intellectual, every wise human being to start preparing for that journey. Now that journey, unlike journeys in this life, where you can ask people who have been to those journeys, have had these experiences, and they have come back and they can explain to you how to take this journey, what are the obstacles, what are the difficulties, what do you need to take with you. Unlike any journey in this life, the journey of Akhara, we don't have anyone who's been there and come back. Therefore, we have no choice but to rely on revelation. This is why the Prophet of Islam is known, and the prophets in general are known as teachers, muallim. He teaches us and he also reminds us of what we already know. What do we already know? We already know things that are bad we shouldn't do. Even a child knows that lying is bad. You don't have to tell a child that lying is bad. Even a child knows that stealing something that doesn't belong to you is bad, something that belongs to others. In fact, children are so possessive that it's hard for us to teach them what? Sharing, how often do you have to tell them sharing is caring, share, it's good, it's nice. We teach them that, inshallah we learn that too. We teach by example, we don't just say it. Sharing is caring only for children. Comes to us, I don't know what happens. It is very important, it is very crucial for every believer that we learn about the safar of Akhara, the journey of the hereafter, and what is good for it, what helps us on that journey, what makes it easier, what are the obstacles. As we said, in this dunya, we know of journeys and the obstacles and difficulties, and therefore we prepare for them. In Akhara, the Safar of Akhara, we have the teacher, the Muallim. As I said, he reminds of what we already know, and he teaches what we don't know. One of the concepts that we don't know is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving. If it wasn't for Anbiya, how would I know that God would forgive me if I commit a sin? You may say in your fitrah, within our natural instinct, we know that God is forgiving. You may say that that's within us. To what level? Why is it then, despite all the talk about God's forgiveness, sometimes people still wonder, will God forgive me? If we knew that, we should not have any kind of doubts. So that the Prophet comes and tells us God is forgiving, and He forgives all sins. Obviously, if you seek forgiveness. If you do seek forgiveness, God forgives all sins. He teaches us about the stations from the time of death to all the way the time that we are admitted to our gardens. Quran shares some and Ahadith shares some. It is not something we could neglect or ignore. Rather, it would be crucial and essential for every believer to read, study, and prepare for that journey. So that we don't say on the Day of Judgment, I wish, Ya laytani qaddamtu li hayati. Rather we say, Ha umuqra'u kitabiyah. There are two groups on the Day of Judgment. Some, when they're given their books, general groups, within which there are other classifications, but general groups, Quran says some of them, when they're given their books, they say, come read our book. Ha umuqra'u kitabiyah. I knew that I'm facing this day. I prepared for it. Inni dhanantu anni mulaqin hisabiya. I prepared for it. Come read my book. Proud of what they have done. Some. And some, when they're given the book, not only do they say don't read it, they say, I wish I never got this book. Lam uta kitabiyah. I wish there was never any reckoning. وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَ يَا لَيْتَهَا كَانَتِ الْقَاضِيَةِ. I wish death was the end. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that anybody would love to have the death being their end, to not have eternity? We all want eternity, yes? As human beings in this life, question for all of you. Human beings in this life, does anyone want death, or do they, any intellectual, wise person, I'm not speaking about sick people, any average intellectual, wise person, any sane person would want to live. And those who don't recognize Akhirah, they want to live forever. They're trying their best to prolong life. And this is not new. In fact, the existence or the term al-kimya, which chemistry comes from, that term is actually the name given to an imaginary substance. It's never existed and perhaps would never exist, that they thought if they find that substance, it would give them eternity. You find that substance, you drink it, it gives you eternal life. So they were searching for it. And they also thought, it's like a magical substance, they also thought that if you use that substance on anything cheap, it turns into gold. You put it on cheap metals, it turns into gold. So in search of that, this whole science of chemistry started. They called perhaps the pharmaceutical people the chemist, because they're giving you the substance that would give you eternity. No. They're giving you what the pharmaceutical industry tells you is going to heal you. What they tell you. Now, whether it works or not, that's a different story. Whether it's real or placebo, or making people dependent on certain substances, that's a different story. That's not my discussion. Nevertheless, insan wants to live and go on with life. They don't want life to end. Yet some, out of regret on the day of judgment, they say, we wish death was the end. يا ليتها كانت القاضية. Imagine that. And it's our choice whether we want to be amongst those who say, come read my book, هاؤم اقرؤوا كتابيه, or those who say, يا ليتها كانت القاضية. I wish that was the end. There was nothing after it. It is our choice. Those who are certain about Akhara are those, this is why they say, إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيًا. Here, dhan does not mean doubt. It actually means I knew, but knowledge without seeing. This is why it's dhan. قَالَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. Those who knew that they would meet their Lord, in the story of Jalut and Talut. In fact, in other words, those who had certainty, they believed. But here, one is because we don't see it, we have not seen it. Those who are certain about the day of judgment, those who are certain about the hereafter, and certainty on a level of the heart, not just lip service, not just thoughts in their minds with a lot of doubts. No, certainty where the heart is certain, and the heart has so much certainty that it reflects into one's body and limbs and actions. Everything comes out with their certainty of Akhirah, that I will face this, what I'm doing now, and what I'm saying now, I will see it once again, and I will be asked of it, and it's going to be even for me or against me. This is yaqeen. Yaqeen of Akhirah, anything that you say or do, whether you are in the secrecy of your home with your spouse, or you're in public in the community, wherever you are, however you are, whatever you're doing, you have certainty that what you're doing, you will see and face it, and you will be judged upon it. It won't be the end, this is it. No. Every single thing صغيرة أو كبيرة إلا أحصاها. ما لهذا الكتاب, they say. What is with this book? It has not left anything little or large. It has every record. It's in there. And when we have that kind of certainty, then we prepare for Akhirah. Abu Dhar, one of the great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, it is narrated that he came once to Mecca after the departure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Season of Hajj, he came to Mecca and he started calling the people. He was known, in fact, for public speaking, coming and publicly speaking, opposing. That is why the third Khalifa Uthman did not allow him to stay in the city, and they sent him to exile, and he in fact was a martyr while in exile because he did not keep quiet. He opposed and he spoke out. So he came one day, he stood and he started calling the people, Ayyuhan nas, people, everyone, attention. Ana Jundub ibn Sakan al-Ghifari, he calls his name. He's known as Abada, but his name is Jundub. He says, Atufun alaykum, I care for you. He learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that was so loving. Bil mu'minina ra'ufun. The Prophet was so kind and loving upon the people. Therefore he says, I care for you. Therefore I'm coming to announce, Atufun alaykum, halummu ilay, come to me. فَاجْتَمَعُوا حَوْلَهُ, they all gathered. He says, if one of you wanted to go somewhere, أراد الرحيل, إذا أراد أحدكم الرحيل لابد وأن يحمل معه من الزاد ما يكفيه. You have to carry what suffices you on your journey. He says, فَكَيْفَ بِهِ إِذَا أَرَادَ السَّفَرْ إِلَى الْآخِرَةِ. What about when you want to travel to the hereafter? فَلْيَحْمِلْ, let them carry. So one of them asked him, he said, Ya Abadar, teach us, guide us. He says, حَجُّ حِجَّةٍ لِعَظَائِمِ الْأُمُورِ. He says, do your hajj for the great sins, great things that you have accounts with God. Do your hajj. It's very important, my dear brothers and sisters. In fact, hajj is almost like wiping everything. A sincere hajj, not the hajj that Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam in a long hadith, he says to the man, you have not done hajj and you have not done talbiyah. Ma hajjayta wa la labbayt. You know, none of the things that you thought you did, you actually did. Why? Because your hajj was incomplete, was not sincere, was not pure, was not with understanding. Very important that whatever we do and say is with understanding. He says, hajj is for the great things. Fasting, لِزَجْرَةِ التَّنُّورِ. He puts it here in a rhyming statement. He says, fast so that you protect yourself from the scorching fire of the tannoor, is like the oven where you bake. He says it's for that scorching fire. You know, when you open the tannoor, if some of you may be familiar, or maybe nowadays you have hot ovens, when you open, you don't stand right in front of it, yes? Because a wave of heat comes out. He says that wave of heat, that according to the hadith, the wave of heat of hellfire can be felt from 500 years distance of traveling. That kind of fire. Protect yourself with fasting. And then he says, and pray 2 rak'ah. All of this is he's saying based on what he's taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَصَلِّ رَكْعَتَيْنِ فِي سَوَادِ اللَّيْلِ لِوَحْشَةِ الْقُبُورِ. For the darkness and the loneliness of your grave, pray 2 rak'ah in the darkness of the night. You know, Salatul Layl, he's referring to not the wajib salat, rather the recommended salat or tahajjud or Salatul Layl. Imam Hassan ibn Ali al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala. It is narrated that when he was himself departing this world after the poisoning, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, it is very famous that narration where Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the rest saw him crying. Imagine Imam Hassan alayhi salam. If you read about the Imam, you will know about his charisma. He was known to be very charismatic, very strong character. Like his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's known for al-hayb al-hasaniyya. Very strong. Yet in his last moments, he was crying. They asked him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, You are guaranteed paradise, master of youth in paradise, Sayyid Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, him and his brother. You? He says, I cry for two things. And both are part of the difficulties of the very first station of Akhara, which is Sakaratul Maut. The first station are Sakaratul Maut. And the difficulties of Sakaratul Maut are because of what one witnesses, what is coming, and also what they see, witnesses of the hereafter. Hawlul Muttala, the Imam says, Abki li firaq al-ahibba wa hawl al-muttala. I cry for two things. On the one hand, I'm parting with all my loved ones. It's not easy. Seeing that children will be orphaned, seeing what could happen to them, how would they take care of their affairs and themselves, it's difficult. Parting with loved ones, it's not easy itself. And then the Imam says, وَهَوْلُ الْمُطَّلَعِ. The howl is something is scary, something that makes you, basically puzzles you, something that Quran describes as sakra itself. Sakra is an intoxication, a state of intoxication, almost like someone hit on the head, they get dizzy, they don't know what's happening. That state of, dizziness and unawareness of, or complete confusion, what is happening? That hawl al-muttala. It's not easy. Therefore the Imam says to the people, these are part of the words of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he says, استعد لسفرك وحصل زادك قبل حلول أجلك. Prepare for your journey. You're setting off on a journey. Every one of us is going on this journey. Sooner or later, no one knows when. I was told yesterday, a young student of university here, they're his parents in Mission, and he's somewhere here in Florida, and a car accident, and he's gone. A young boy, perhaps college or university student, and he's gone. This is life. A simple accident and one parts with their loved ones, with the world that they put all their hopes. They say don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is where it's most applicable. A believer, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he says, Laysa minna, one who neglects this world and his affairs in this world for Akhara is not from us. This is sure, this is for sure. We have to take care of our affairs. We have to provide for the family. We have to work hard. We have to make an effort in this world. But at the same time, the Imam says, and one who neglects his hereafter for here is not from us. Oftentimes, most people focus on this first part of the hadith. They say, no, the Quran says, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Hadith says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا. Don't forget your share in this world. The hadith says one who leaves akhirah, who leaves dunya for the sake of akhirah is not from us. So they focus on this part, forgetting the second part. Quran says don't forget your share in this world, after saying prepare for your hereafter. So priorities hereafter. Hadith again of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Very famous and very few understood this hadith. He says, work for your dunya as if you're living forever, and work for your akhirah as if you die tomorrow. Most of you have heard this hadith. Many misunderstood. They think it means because you're living forever, so you have to work as if you have to provide for yourself forever. I have to make the wealth that if I live here forever, I have to provide for myself and my family forever. Some people, they think I have to make sure, in Farsi we say hafat. I have to make sure I care for my descendants, not only my children, but 7 generations from there. I have to provide for them. Leave enough inheritance for 7 generations to come. When the Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen in another hadith, he says, the best thing you give your children is adab, not money. Money they can earn themselves. If they're not disciplined how they are with people, that is what they cannot get. You have to give it to them, unless they get it very difficult. There's a saying, مَنْ لَمْ يُؤَدِّبْهُ الْأَبَوَانِ أَدَّبَهُ الزَّمَانِ. If the parents don't give them that discipline, then they go on in life and difficulty, and they hit, walls. They hit roads that are closed, one after the other, and they have to keep making U-turns in their life before they make it, if they ever make it, to the right direction. Therefore, it's most significant to give them adab, not wealth. So what is this amal dunyaka ka'annaka ta'ishu mada or abada? A long life here means which one has a priority. They give you 2 exam papers or 2 assignments. One is due tomorrow and the other is, you have long time. You have time. It's open-ended almost assignment. Which one you would work more for? Not saying neglect the one that's not due tomorrow, but don't forget the one that's due tomorrow. Unfortunately, we focus on the one that is not due yet, and we forget the one that's due tomorrow. Akhara. اعمل لآخرتك كأنك تموت غدا. If today is your last day of your life, what have I prepared for myself? If sakaratul maut come, the angel of death in the first station comes, the Imam says, حصل زادك قبل حلول أجلك. Ajal comes, death comes, angel of death comes. The young and old, the angel of death does not know. أرى الموت خط عشواء من تصب تمته ومن تخطئ يعمر فيهرم. Death, like a camel gone wild, running, hits. Young or old doesn't know. If it hits one, they're gone. Misses, they live. Obviously, it's not ashwa, it's not random. It is decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for us, it's random because we don't know. Nobody knows. No one has been given a time that your time, there was a movie that they have their time on their wrist. I don't know if any of you have watched this movie. Very interesting. Some concepts in these movies make you, think about what we've been given. That itself was a trouble. If God had given any of us, a time that, okay, now perhaps we would be more cautious with our time. God has, through His wisdom, He left it. Some old, some young. Nobody can say, I have time. I still have 40 more years in my life. Do you know that? I have 50, 60 years. I'm only 20 years old. I have 60 years ahead of me. Yeah, sure. Go to the cemetery and tell me how many years you have ahead of you. Read the stones on the graves. They normally put born, died. One day I went there with one of my children, and he came, Baba, look, these people, they were only born 2004, 2005. This one is only 2014, and that was a few years ago. Surprised, shocked. Eventually I found one 2020 or something, recent. Not long ago we buried a very young boy in the community, 3-4 years old. This is life. We act like we're gonna live forever. Sakratul Maut comes, this is the first station. What can I do to make sure my Sakaratul Maut are not difficult? Inshallah, I'll speak more about it next week, but very brief. One of the most important things for that is to be, number one, debt-free. Don't have debts. Or if you have them, you have a will for Sakaratul Maut. If you have a will that records everything that you owe, and you have the means to cover that, or you have sought forgiveness. I cannot afford to pay back. If I die, will you forgive me? Beg the people. Unfortunately for this dunya, if you're in trouble, you do all sorts of things. But for Akhara, it's like it doesn't even exist. Make sure you fix your accounts, because this is part of Sakaratul Maut. It comes before your eyes. One of the great scholars, in fact, his son narrates, he says, as he was in his last moments, we knew he is not feeling well. He could not even give the Shahada. You know, you've heard the story frequently, many of you must have heard, that Rasulullah was telling a young boy who was departing, last moments, to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The young boy could not speak, his tongue was simply not moving. He couldn't say anything. Again, that's Sakaratul Maut and the dizziness and so on. So the Prophet asked for his mother. And when she said, yes, I am his mother, he asked her, are you displeased with him? If you are pleased for the sake of me, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for my sake, forgive him. And she forgave him. And he taught him a prayer. He was in a different state altogether. This scholar, as he is departing, accounts with people. See, this was an account with his mother. Displeased with him. Parents have a right. Make sure they're not displeased with you. You don't know when the angel of death comes. Accounts with others, siblings. بر إخواني المؤمنين, a dua that is known as Tawassul Akhara. We ask God through Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam to have dutifulness to the Ikhwan. They have rights, our brothers and sisters in Iman. Because death comes, if one is undutiful, it'll come before his eyes or her eyes. Very important. Be debt-free. Make sure people have forgiven you. Make sure if you have any bad accounts with anybody. This scholar was about to depart, and again confused, in a bad state. Eventually his son says he was able to explain to us. He said, bring me a box. He pointed to a box. I brought it. He opened the box. There was a letter that was basically a guarantee, or a letter that somebody owed him money and his family members did not know. Again, wills are very important. He says, Shaitan, the scholar himself is telling his son, Shaitan was playing games with me with this paper, that you're going to die and your children are going to not realize that this person owes you money, and they're gonna lose that money, it's gonna be gone. He says he took the paper, he ripped it. In other words, I have forgiven this man and he could have peace. Make sure your accounts are clear with people, because one of the most, in fact, significant and important aspects of Sakaratul Maut is to make sure your accounts with everybody are clear and good. You're in good state, or in a good position with everyone, all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, your family members and so on, to the best of your ability. Even, we have a concept, mawalim. People you don't know, you may owe them, you give charity on their behalf. People you cannot reach and you owe, you give charity on their behalf. Clear your accounts, clear your mind, clear your conscience. Then when the angel of death comes, you, inshallah, we will have an easy time, easy sakaratul maut. It could be various and it could be from the easiest to the most difficult. It's all up to us and how we are with our ikhwan, with the mu'mineen and mu'minat around us. I was requested to recite, inshallah, a very short majlis in memory of the mother of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. We narrated this riwayah, salawatullah wa salamu alayha, Fatimatu Zahra, salamullah alayha, as she was departing this world, or as they were farewelling her family. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulullah, sallallahu alayka ya Habiballah, sallallahu alayka wa ala bid'atika Fatimata Zahra, sayyidatin nisa. As Fatima salamullah alayha was departing this world, she told Asma, I am begging and wearing my own, I will go to my room, I pray. After a while call me, if I answer you, I answer. If I don't, then be it known that I would have departed. Asma says, I called her. I called Fatima salamullah alayha, ya bint Rasulillah, ya bid'ata Rasulillah. I called and called, she did not answer. I called the children. I called Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Go and inform your father that your mother Fatima has departed this world. They say when they went to Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was in the masjid in Medina. As they told him, Amir al-Mu'mineen started rushing towards the house, perhaps thinking to himself, what is this musibah that has come to me? He was rushing, he stumbled and fell. I say, Ya Ali, you never stumbled in the battlefield against the most courageous of warriors. You never stumbled. What has happened to you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? He comes, O Fatima, O daughter of Rasulullah. He has to be the strong one. When the children are there, he tells them, come, farewell your mother. Farewell her for the last time. They come, they're farewelling their mother. Imam Hassan, he says, this is your beloved Hassan, these are your children. Kallimini ya Allah, answer me before I breathe my last. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the angels asked that I remove the children from their mother. Ya Ali, remove the children from their mother. The angels in the heavens cannot stand the scene. La hawla wa ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بمحمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وبالتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. استجب دعواتنا يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Ya Allah, grant us firmness upon your religion. Ya Allah. Ya Allah, grant us the opportunity to be in obedience to you, pleasing to you, far from disobedience and displeasure to you. Ya Allah. Ya Allah, mu'mineen and mu'minat in difficulty, those who are unwell, grant them the quick recovery and relief. Ya Allah. Mu'mineen and mu'minat who passed away from our gatherings, grant them abundance of your mercy. Ya Allah. Bring forth the reappearance of our Imam. Make us amongst his sincere lovers and companions, those who prepare for his return. Ya Allah. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات، أرواح الشهداء والصالحين، أرواح موتى الحاضرين المؤسسين الباذلين، إلى روح المرحوم أم حسين. رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة تحفها صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك. السلام عليك يا شيخ مجتبى. السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد كربلاء وعلى جسد المعصومين من ذريته علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن أجر الله فرجه وسحق الله مخرجه وظهورا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم اغفر لوليك وجدك الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك رضا وتمتعه فيها طيبا. اللهم صل على محمد. أحسنت والله.